Welcome to Writerly Wisdom Wednesdays. I'm Menna van Praag, author of 10 novels, including the Sisters Grimm fantasy trilogy. I'm a creative writing tutor at Cambridge University and the co-founder of the Cambridge Creative Writing Company. And I'm here to tell you everything I know about writing and publishing novels. So let's begin at the beginning with beginnings.
What makes your story special? And how will you write it so the reader will never forget it? I'll teach you the art and craft of the bestseller. Learn how to tell and sell your story and write your dreams into reality.
So about 10 years ago, I went through my entire library of books, looking at the beginning, at the very opening sentence and the few sentences that followed. And I wanted to see if there was something that they all had in common, something that made them particularly compelling. And I found that many of them fell into 5 broad categories. What next, who, why, when, and where. Now they didn't all, some of them didn't fit into this category at all, but it was very interesting to see how many did. Some overlapped, so you'd have a what, a who, a why all at once, but these were always the most compelling openings. And I studied these openings and I started to write them myself. And I've been collecting them ever since, so I now have sort of a 30-page document with all of my favorite compelling openings, and I invite my students to send them to me. And I invite you to post any in the comments, your most compelling openings, the ones that you love, the ones that you've written yourself. I also invite you to look at the opening of the novel that you're writing now and rewrite it accordingly with what next, why, who, where, and when, and try and get as much of that as you can into the first page. In the first page, we want to have character, plot, setting. And what you're doing there is that you're evoking questions in the reader that your book is promising to answer. So they're asking, who is this person? Why is this going on? What is happening? What's going to happen next? Where are we? It's that will compel them to read on because they want to answer these questions. We'll look at my openings, we'll look at some other openings, and hopefully this will inspire you to decide how you're going to best open your novel. Rewrite, choose which one you like best, and then create your own fantastically compelling opening. So, the first one is what? And in Child of Earth and Sky, my latest novel, I began with a what. It happened 3 years ago, but Goldie can still close her eyes and relive that night as if it were happening now. So here you have the question of what. What happened? What is she remembering? What can she remember? It must have been something very important, something very significant in the plot, and hopefully you'll keep reading because you want to know what it was. In the patron saint of Lost Souls, I went with what next. So this is the opening line. 3 phone calls would change Jude's life, but that would come later. So 3 phone calls would change Jude's life, but that would come later. So hopefully you want to know. You think, well, what are these phone calls? How do they change her life? What is said in them? What's going to happen next? That question will propel you towards wanting to find the answer, and so you will keep reading the book. In Men, Money and Chocolate, which was my first novel, so I wasn't very accomplished at writing sentences, so I don't think this one is particularly strong, but it is a question of why. As Maya stepped into the Cocoa Cafe, her heart sank a little. So the question there is why? Why did her heart sink? You also have who, because you have the protagonist right there. And as I say, it's not hugely compelling why. It's not like George Orwell, it's not like some of the examples we have here, but it is a little bit of a why. It's perhaps enough to get you to keep reading on. For the Sisters Grimm, I wanted to create a who because character was so much at the center of the novel, and I wanted to add in a few whys as well. So, I've been a thief for as long as I can remember. A liar too. I might even be a murderer, but you'll have to make up your own mind about that. So when it comes to creating a who, you want to make that who as compelling as possible. A thief, a liar, a possible murderer is quite an interesting character, and you might want to read on to find out why. Who is this woman, and why has she done the things that she's done? For the house at the end of Hope Street, I focused on where. Now, where and when I've included because in historical fiction, you want to get when in pretty early. You don't have to be explicit about it, but you want to evoke the time quite soon. In this case, it was a contemporary novel, but the question of where was really important. Another key thing to remember in terms of where is that the where can be a character in the novel. So with these examples that we're looking at, the where is a character. In terms of Rebecca, Mandalay is a huge character in the novel, and that inspired me somewhat when I was writing Hope Street. The house has stood at the end of Hope Street for nearly 200 years. It's larger than all the others, with turrets and chimneys rising high into the sky. The front garden grows wild, with long grasses scattered with cowslips reaching towards the low-hanging leaves of the willow trees. At night, the house looks like a Victorian orphanage housing 100 despairing souls. But when the clouds part and it is lit by moonlight, the house appears enchanted, as if Rapunzel lives in the tower and 100 sleeping beauties lie in the beds. So another thing that I did there was evoke genre. I used fairy tales to give a promise of magic. And in terms of where, you need more. You're going to have a whole paragraph really to describe. Rebecca opens with nearly 3 pages describing Mandalay. So you are creating atmosphere, you're creating mood, you're creating a place that your reader wants to step into. I hope you've enjoyed our examination of beginnings. Next week, we're going to look more deeply into character, especially the sorts of wants and needs to give your protagonist in order to create a compelling story. I look forward to seeing you then. If you're local to Cambridge and interested in my in-person creative writing workshops, then please visit cambridgecreativewritingcompany.com. And if you're interested in my Zoom classes, go to menovanprague.com. If you have any comments about your favorite openings, please post them. And if you want to share the opening of your own novel, I would love to see it.